Good day, everybody. This is Yin Yang in California with Morsels of a Thought number 1538. That's a good number. It's a very nice number in Chinese numerology. 38, as well as being the third month and the eighth day of the third month is International Women's Day, um, celebrating the working and working women of the world. Good morning, Carmen Smith, Suzanne Shamut, Martha Theory, and Tara Darnell Roberts, and John Clark, Odette Minders, Marty Blue. Ha 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 ha. How are you? Colleen Dracos, Gina Putoff. I am going to read from the Tao Te Ching today. First of all, think I've read part of the forward in the past, but I want to read part of it right now because here, Taoteching, pronounced more or less Tao Te Ching, Dowdehjing, can be translated as the Book of the Imminence of the Way, or the Book of the Way, and of how it manifests itself in the world, or simply the Book of the Way, since it is already well known by its Chinese title. I have let it stand. This is translated by Stephen Mitchell, and less and less do you need to force things until finally you arrive at non-action. When nothing is done, nothing is left undone. So here, people usually think of Lao Tzu as a hermit, a dropout from society, dwelling serenely in some mountain hut, unvisited except by the occasional traveler arriving from a 60s joke to ask, what is the meaning of life? But it's clear from his teachings that he deeply cared about society, if society means the welfare of one's fellow human beings. His book is, among other things, a treatise on the art of government, whether of a country or of a child. This misperception may arise from his insistence on wei wu wei, literally wei wu wei, literally doing and not doing. Wei wu wei. Oh, okay. I think it's wei wu wei, which has been seen as passivity, doing, not doing. Nothing could be further from the truth. A good athlete can enter a state of body awareness in which the right stroke or the right movement happens by itself effortlessly without any interference of the conscious will. This is a paradigm for non-action, the purest and most effective form of action. The game plays the game. The poem writes the poem. We can't tell the dancer from the dance. It's when you're in the groove. That's what they're saying. Nothing is done. Okay, less and less do you need to force things until finally you arrive at non-action. When nothing is done, nothing is left undone. Nothing is done because the doer has wholeheartedly vanished into the deed. The fuel has been completely transformed into flame. This nothing is, in fact, everything. It happens when we trust the intelligence of the universe in the same way that an athlete or a dancer trusts the superior intelligence of the body. Hence, Lao Tzu's emphasis on softness. Softness means the opposite of rigidity and is synonymous with suppleness, adaptability, endurance. Anyone who has seen a Tai Chi or Aikido master doing, not doing, will know how powerful this softness is. Lao Tzu's central figure is a man or woman whose life is in perfect harmony with the way things are. This is not an idea. It is a reality. I have seen it. This is the translator speaking, Stephen Mitchell. The master has mastered nature, capital N, not in the sense of conquering it, but of becoming it. In surrendering to the Tao, T-A-O, in giving up all concepts, judgments, and desires, her mind has grown naturally compassionate. She finds deep in her own experience the central truths of the art of living, which are paradoxical only on the surface, that the more truly solitary we are, the more compassionate we can be, the more we let go of what we love, the more present our love becomes, the clearer our insight into what is beyond good and evil, the more we can embody the good until finally she is able to say in all humility, I am the Tao, the truth, the life. I'm going to pause here for this part. We'll go into some of the poetry later, but I want to say something. In the fact that there is evil in the world, evil still exists for the common good. Evil does things, evil makes things work in a way that say I was a rude person, for example. Say if I was rude to people, whenever I went into a store and bought something, I'd be rude. It could be because I was afraid of being tricked into paying more than I should. So the rudeness has its purpose, the purpose of preventing me from being uh, cheated of money. So the rudeness actually has a good purpose, intention of keeping me, keeping my pocketbook safe. So the rudeness, although it is evil, a form of evil, the presence of it is to serve a good purpose as well as anything else. So the evil is present, and the evil is a necessary aspect of life because the evil makes something good happen as well. Even though we may measure it differently, it is still a good purpose of existence of evil. Okay? Okay. 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 Number 3. No. Number 4. The Tao is like a well, used but never used up. It is like the eternal void, filled with infinite possibilities. It is hidden but always present. I don't know who gave birth to it. It is older than God. This is deep. The reason is that God God is the unexplainable, unencompassable, un God is the infinite. However, there is a Tao. The Tao says there must be a God. The Tao says God needs to be here. That's why we have God. And God came before all of us. But the existence of God is through the existence of the Tao, of the way, of the fact. The fact is actually a substance, a matter, a solid matter. So if you think of it that way, it is older than God. Okay. Uh, Let me write this down. Shit. Sorry. Uh, if I don't write it down, it turns out that I'll read it again later. And I've done that once before, not just once. Okay. Number 29. Do you want to improve the world? I don't think it can be done. The world is sacred. It can't be improved. If you tamper with it, you'll ruin it. If you treat it like an object, you'll lose it. There is a time for being ahead, a time for being behind, a time for being in motion, a time for being at rest, a time for being vigorous, a time for being exhausted, a time for being safe, a time for being in danger. The master sees things as they are without trying to control them. She lets them go their own way and resides at the center of the circle. So, this is a lot like, I think, Ecclesiastes. Oh, let's look that up. My God. Let's look up Ecclesiastes for a minute. I want to see that. Um, Otherwise, I won't be able to sleep tonight. Ah, Ecclesiastes. Okay, we are in the Bible at the moment. This Bible belongs to me. Okay, I'm looking for Ecclesiastes. Where's the table of contents? Okay, here I'm looking for Ecclesiastes. I could be looking in the wrong place. Okay, page 578. Page 578. We're going to read Ecclesiastes now. Page 578. 567, 575, 578. Ecclesiastes. Introduction. Ecclesiastes studies the meaning of life. The teacher looks at wisdom, pleasure, work, power, riches, religion, and other things. All of these have some value and are useful in the proper time and place, but they have lasting value only if God is at the center of man's life. Reverence and respect for God and a real devotion in serving God are, are the most important in making life have meaning. Without God, the teacher says, everything is meaningless. Ah, goodness gracious. Now, a time for everything. Uh, Chapter 3, verses 1 through 22. There we go. Okay. Which version do I have? I have the New International Version, NIV. Okay, a time for everything. Number 3, chapter 3, verses 1 through 22. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build. Good morning, Elizabeth Ann. Hey, Liz, how are you? A time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, and a time to embrace and a time to refrain, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. What does the worker gain from his toil? I have seen the burden God has laid on men. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the hearts of men, yet they cannot fathom what God has done from beginning to end. I know that there is nothing better for men than to be happy and do good while they live, that everyone may eat and drink and find satisfaction in all his toil. This is the gift from God. I know that everything God does will endure forever. Nothing can be added to it and nothing taken from it. God does it so that men will revere him. Whatever is has already been, and what will be has been before, and God will call the past to account. And I saw something else under the sun. In the place of judgment, wickedness was there. In the place of justice, wickedness was there. I thought in my heart, God will bring to judgment both the righteous and the wicked, for there will be a time for every activity, a time for every deed. I also thought, as for men, God tests them so that they may see that they are more like that. Hold on. As for men, God tests them so that they may see that they are like the animals. Man's fate is like that of the animals. The same fate awaits them both. As one dies, so does the other. All have the same breath. Man has no advantage over the animal. Everything is meaningless. All go to the same place. All come from dust, and and to dust all return. Who knows if the spirit of man rises upward and the spirit of the animal goes down into the earth? So I saw that there is nothing better for a man than to enjoy his work, because that is his lot. For who can bring him to see what will happen after him? Okay. Back to China, I suppose. Um, do you want to improve the world? This is from the Tao Te Ching Lao Tzu. Um, they lived about the same time, I think, or at least they both lived about 2,000 years ago. Do you want to improve the world? I don't think it can be done. The world is sacred. It can't be improved. If you tamper with it, you'll ruin it. If you treat it like an object, you'll lose it. There is a time for being ahead, a time for being behind, a time for being in motion, a time for being at rest, a time for being vigorous, a time for being exhausted, a time for being safe, a time for being in danger. The master sees things as they are without trying to control them. She lets them go their own way and resides at the center of the circle. Isn't that great? This is like China has this Chinese version, and then we've got Ecclesiastes. So, in a way, that other one, I don't want to leave that one behind. There. The Tao is like a well, number 4. The Tao is like a well, used but never used up. It is like the eternal void, filled with infinite possibilities. It is hidden, but always present. I don't know who gave birth to it. It is older than God. That's what the Tao is the way. God is part of the way. That's what we say. So that's why Taoism in the West, Taoism is considered a religion. But in China, Taoism is simply the way to be. There is nothing about religion about it, nothing about being fanatical to think about it or anything like that. And I'm not saying that anybody would be fanatical. Fanaticism is the act of redoubling your efforts when you have lost sight of the goal. That is from George Lieberman's book, 3,500 Good Quotes for Speakers. And I don't know who said it, but somebody said it, and it's in that book. You can look it up under its topic. It's usually a topic. He's got like 40 or 50 topics, like marriage, irony, things like that. Okay, one more poem from the Tao, number 52. In the beginning was the Tao. All things issue from it. All things return to it. To find the origin, trace back the manifestations. When you recognize the children and find the mother, you will be free of sorrow. If you close your mind in judgments and traffic with desires, your heart will be troubled. If you keep your mind from judging and aren't led by the senses, your heart will find peace. Seeing into darkness is clarity. Knowing how to yield is strength. Use your own light and return to the source of light. This is called practicing eternity. Wow, that is so cool. I love these things. You learn a lot. Um, I'd like to go back to the Ecclesiastes and read the parts about all the times to do everything. So just the verses 1 through 8. I'll just read those again. Okay. A time for everything. This is chapter 3 of Ecclesiastes. There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. So, what does the worker gain from his toil? There we are. So, both the Tao Te Ching and the Christian Bible say eventually the same thing, which is to seek the infinite and be still, live in the center of it. Um, that's why we try to come down to the ground when we meditate or when we practice Qigong or when we practice any kind of Tai Chi. You are connected to the ground. Okay, so with morsels of a thought of wisdom every single day, I try to um, make you guys have a great day. Knowing the right things to do is wisdom, and then actually doing them is called virtue. So, okay, say hello again. Tom Krebs, Carmen Smith, Diane Dogmom, Penny Pretty, Veronica Salinas, Nancy Miller, Tom Krebs's wife. Okay, so I will see you again tomorrow. Be strong. Thank you for the words of wisdom today. You're very welcome. I really appreciate having them here. Somebody else wrote them. So, anyway, all right. I will see you later. Oh, I didn't put that on silent, did I? Gee whiz. I thought I did. Oh, there we go, arguing with myself again. Okay. Old Kendrick. Bye.